This is not just a ghost story. It's not a tale told to scare children before bed. It's a documented case, investigated, and to this day, impossible to explain. Welcome to the Smurl case, one of the darkest, most intense, and disturbing paranormal encounters ever recorded, and one that not even Ed and Lorraine Warren could fully resolve. It all began in 1973, when the Smurl family, Jack, Janet, their 4 daughters, and Jack's parents, John and Mary, decided to move into a duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. The house wasn't new, but it had potential: a quiet neighborhood, friendly neighbors, and a suspiciously low price. The first year was normal. The girls went to school, Jack worked as a technician, and Janet cared for the home. It was the perfect image of an average American family. But as happens in the worst nightmares, everything changed slowly, drop by drop, like poison in a glass of water. The first signs were small. A dark stain appeared on the hallway carpet, and no matter how many times they cleaned it, it always came back. The lights flickered, even after checking the wiring. Soft knocks were heard at night, footsteps that stopped just behind closed doors, and the most disturbing thing, an unexplainable cold that settled in certain rooms, even in the height of summer. One night, while Janet was washing dishes, she felt someone watching her from the doorway. She slowly turned her head, but there was no one, except the kitchen mirror reflected a black figure standing right behind her. When she turned around, it vanished. Janet's heart beat like a war drum. Jack downplayed it, said it was just nerves, but he too began to hear low growls at night, like the sound of an animal trapped inside the walls. Sounds unlike anything he'd heard before. What initially seemed like simple residual activity turned into something much darker. Appliances turn on and off by themselves. One night, the television exploded with a dry pop, sending sparks flying. The house's electricity began behaving as if it had a life of its own. The girls said something watched them while they slept. One of them claimed a man with red eyes watched her from the corner of her room. Jack began waking up with scratches on his back. One of his dreams made him scream so loudly it woke the entire house. He dreamed something dragged him out of bed, down the hallway, into the basement. But the most disturbing event happened one afternoon while Mary, Jack's mother, was taking a nap. She woke up abruptly with the sensation of being strangled. When she opened her eyes, she saw a female figure with a pale face and completely black eyes on top of her, pressing her chest with both hands. She couldn't move. She couldn't scream. She could only cry. And when the figure finally disappeared, Mary was left with a bruise shaped like a hand. The smell in the house changed. A putrid stench, like rotting meat mixed with sulfur, began invading certain rooms at dusk. Janet claimed a shadow followed her as she walked down the hallway. The family dog refused to enter the basement. He growled at nothing and peed himself out of fear. One of the daughters, Heather, began talking to herself. She said a lady told her secrets at night. When Janet asked what this lady looked like, Heather described her exactly. She was identical to the woman Mary had seen on top of her. The dreams became shared. They all dreamed of the same figure. A man standing in the corner, completely covered in shadows, faceless, breathing heavily as if hatred weighed down his chest. The spirit was no longer content to observe. It began to touch, to manipulate. One night, while Janet was showering, she felt something forcefully touching her. When she came out screaming from the bathroom, she had marks on her body as if invisible hands had grabbed her. The spirit had crossed the line. It now attacked physically. Jack was sexually assaulted on multiple occasions, by an invisible presence. Humiliated and broken, it took him weeks to tell Janet. This wasn't just a spirit, it was something far worse. Something demonic. The local priest visited the house, said a brief prayer, and left, never wanting to return. He said, "There's something in that house that looks directly into your soul." Desperate, the Smurls contacted the most famous paranormal investigators in the country, Ed and Lorraine Warren. When Lorraine entered, she stopped cold, pale. She said she felt a presence so intense and evil that it was hard to stand. The Warrens conducted sessions with mediums, prayers, and an attempted exorcism. During these sessions, objects flew through the air, the walls banged by themselves. Voices were heard speaking in ancient tongues, and symbols formed in the cracks of the paint. One of the recordings made by the Warrens captured a guttural moan. When played in reverse, it clearly revealed a phrase: "They won't leave. They mine." The Catholic Church refused to authorize an official exorcism. They said there wasn't enough evidence. The Warrens, frustrated, claimed that what inhabited that house was a demonic entity that didn't just possess the home. It wanted to destroy everything from the inside out. The attacks didn't stop, and what were once strange noises or shadows in the corners became physical assaults, diabolical whispers, and a constant oppression that filled every space they entered. Janet, once strong and smiling, began to fade before her family's eyes. Her skin turned pale, her body fragile. She lost weight at an alarming rate, and on several occasions was found fainted, murmuring nonsensical words, as if speaking to something no one else could see. One night, while coming down the stairs with a laundry basket, Jack was brutally thrown from the top. His body hit every step until he lay motionless on the floor. He was hospitalized with multiple contusions, but when he woke, his testimony chilled everyone's blood. "Someone pushed me. I felt the hands cold, bony, and a laugh in my ear." Terrified, they tried to escape. They temporarily moved in with relatives, believing leaving the house would break the cycle. But it didn't. What tormented them followed. Lights flickered, objects moved by themselves, doors flew open in the middle of the night. Even in other homes, mirrors fogged up with words written from the other side. It was no longer about a cursed house. It was about a marked family. Priests came and went. They performed blessings, minor exorcisms. One of them even had a nervous breakdown after one session, claiming that something watched him from the walls, laughing every time he prayed. The Warrens, after deep investigation, acknowledged that this was one of the darkest and most resistant cases they had faced. According to Lorraine, the evil here wasn't just a presence, it was an infestation, like a spiritual tumor feeding off the family's energy. 15 years passed. 15 years of daily spiritual harassment, of knocks in the night, of voices calling their names, of shadows walking down the hallway, of nightmares so real they woke up with marks on their bodies. The children grew up in an environment where fear was the norm and hope a distant memory. Not a day passed without alarm, nor a night without screams. Janet developed severe anxiety disorder. Her gaze became empty, as if part of her soul had been trapped in that house. Jack began to suffer memory loss, blackouts that coincided with moments when the family said he seemed absent, acting strangely, even speaking in a language no one recognized. Finally, in 1989, after countless moves, visits from clergy, paranormal investigators, and mental health specialists, the family managed to find some relief. They moved to a new home, smaller, farther away. with fewer memories. The paranormal activity decreased, but never completely vanished. From time to time, Janet heard her name whispered at dawn. Jack, when looking in the mirror, said he saw another face behind his own, only for an instant. Noises in the kitchen, lights turning on by themselves, and the constant feeling that they were never alone. The Warrens, with all their experience, confessed that this was one of the few cases they could never close. An open wound in the history of the paranormal. An evil so deep, so rooted, it seemed to have been born with the house, or worse, with the family's very blood. The Smurl case did not end in 1989. It only changed form, because when evil takes root, sometimes it never leaves. To this day, that house still stands. Its facade has been renovated over the years, as if trying to erase the past with a coat of paint. But beneath the walls, beneath the foundation, what happened there remains. Different owners have crossed that door. Some lasted weeks, others barely days. Almost none speak. Some simply smile uncomfortably and look away when asked. Others flatly deny any activity, though their eyes say otherwise. The neighbors know. They watch from afar, cross the street to avoid walking past the house. Some still remember the screams, the emergency vehicles arriving in the middle of the night, the lights that turned on by themselves night after night, and that heavy, suffocating sensation as if the air itself were infected. The Smurl story was taken to television. It was debated, ridiculed, defended. Some labeled it collective hysteria. Others, one of the most compelling proofs that evil doesn't need scientific evidence to exist. But beyond the cameras and controversy, there is one undeniable fact. Everyone involved, doctors, priests, neighbors, witnesses, paranormal investigators, agrees on something disturbing. Something happened there that completely defies logic. Something that left a mark even time has not been able to erase. Because there are wounds that don't bleed but never heal. Because there are houses that aren't empty, even when no one's inside. And you, would you sleep peacefully in a house where the darkness doesn't just dwell, but watches? Could you close your eyes, knowing that something might be waiting on the other side of your dreams? Could you live with whispers in your ear every dawn, with footsteps that have no owner, with doors that open on their own, and voices that repeat your name from nothingness? Maybe you don't believe in these things. Maybe you think it was all exaggerated, that it was stress, imagination, collective suggestion. Maybe, but when night falls, when the lights go out and the silence deepens, remember this story and listen carefully, because evil doesn't need to be seen to know it's there. And you, would you dare spend one night in the Smurl house? Because some say the screams are still heard.